Good morning on what is a grey, overcast and slightly mild day. It is Saturday the 11th of December. I am back in the reading nook with a nice hot cup of tea. And a cat who is not ours, who's been very annoying with the videos this morning, and a parcel to open, one of many. Okay, so I've already, you see this is already open, so I've already been in here, but I am going to dig something else out. So let's remove the packaging. Hopefully the cat, who is not ours, will settle down a bit so he's not being quite so nosy. This is really trying to come out. So I've got this. So just to show you so far what I've already done an partial unboxing of this. It's quite a big parcel. So what we've got in here, I have looked at Phantoms of Mars, which is the first campaign for John Carter of Mars, and also the narrator's kit. So if I everything is more difficult when I can't do that. Just moving around and stuff like that. Let's have a look what we've got in here. Let's grab this, and then I move this box out of the way. So I can just myself a bit more breathing room, so I'm not fighting around the box and the cat at the same time. So okay, so this is Prince of Helium era supplement rule book for John Carter of Mars, or Edgar Rice Burroughs' John Carter of Mars, published by Modiphius, and it uses the 2D20 system. And it's the simplest of the 2D20 system role-playing games published by Modiphius. And John Carter of Mars essentially is one of the earliest big science fiction sort of like stories. Planetary, essentially a Civil War, American Civil War veteran, is basically cast away. Basically wakes to find himself on Mars and near the nations of Burrough, and has many adventures, and it's planetary romance, swords and blasters on a desert world full of airships and four-armed other Martians, and essentially canals and that sort of thing. Basically classic Mars elements. So let's see what this one is about. Adventures on Burrough in the Prince of Helium era. Upon the bloody mound we met them, hand to hand, stabbing where the quarters were too close to cut, thrusting where we could push a foeman to arm's length. And mingled with the wild city of Acarian, there rose and fell the glorious words, "For Helium, for Helium!" that for countless ages have spurred on the bravest of the brave to those deeds of valour that have sent the fame of Helium's heroes broadcast throughout the length and breadth of a world. Edgar Rice Burroughs' John Carter of Mars, Prince of Helium era supplement rulebook provides you with an in-depth look at the Prince of Helium era play for John Carter of Mars adventures in the Dying World in the Burrough role-playing game. A narrator advice on using the themes and tone of the era and the plots for the Gods of Mars and the Warlords of Mars to create exciting Prince of Helium era campaigns. Now, the Gods of Mars and the Warlords of Mars are books in the series by Edgar Rice Burroughs, and essentially these books were written at the turn of essentially the 19th century, 20th century. So we're looking sort of like the early sort of like 1900 onwards, and then new character options for Okar, Firstborn, and White Martians, including pre-made talents, flaws, and expanded accolades and renowned spends. New narrator characters, those most beloved and despised of the era. New strange technology, powers for your players to acquire, and mysterious places of the Prince of Helium era to explore, all packed with plot seeds to inspire narrators. New optional rules for using supporting characters as well as legacy and troop play. Expanded rules exploring dueling and honour, including rules for exciting personal duels and dueling styles. And of course it requires John Carter of Mars Adventures in the Dying World of Burrough core rulebook. Now, obviously the thing is you'll notice about all of these titles for John Carter of Mars is that they are in landscape format. Now, a traditional role-playing game will come like that, with the spine there. Okay, so you're basically opening like that. Okay, but John Carter of Mars is one of the few role-playing books. Others like Underground from A5 Games and The World of Hellas use the landscape format, which you're probably better used to actually seeing in terms of your GM screens, which, you know, basically very few of them are stand up like that. Most of them sort of like fold up like that. So let's find out what's in here. Let's get a knife just to break the cellophane. There we go. Now I can get my fingers underneath that because it's not cold, but my fingers are beginning to feel, you know, say to me that I shouldn't be out here because it's not summer, in other words. So pulling the cellophane off there. So let's have a look at that artwork. Yeah, obviously inspired by 3000. You know, basically a warlord kicking an opponent into a deep pit. You know, to the cry of, you know, this is Barsoom. And then you open up inside. There's a fuller image done of it, so you can see it in all its glory. Obviously black and white, but again, you know, if you open up the book, you can see a bit more of it in colour there. And it's repeated on the inside back cover, so there's nothing interesting there. So we go into the book, and the other thing about this, I would say, and I will probably say this again because basically as I work my way through the books in this box, is that you are facing. Essentially, these are not easy books to handle because of the format. It's just sort of like you know, because they're longer, so they're a little more difficult to handle. And then we get into the first section. Really is an era of change, the second era, and themes in this book. Essentially what it's saying is what is different between this setting and that presented in the core rulebook. Now, the Prince of Helium era is discussed in the core book, but here it goes into greater depth. And essentially, this is what this book is and is not. And it says essentially this book is the second in a 3-book series, each detailing one era of John Carter play, as first described in John Carter of Mars' core rules book. It is not a comprehensive listing of rules and ideas for gameplay of Barsoom, but focuses on the themes, ideas, options, and concepts most appropriate for the years of the era. Here we go into essentially the Tales of the Era, Prince of Helium era events. We're dealing with the gods of Mars, the power vacuum of Helium, religion destroyed warlords of Mars. Just looking at the books and how they relate to role-playing here. Again, really nicely laid out, lovely artwork, as you would expect from Modiphius. Still looking at the history and so on, like the missing years period for the setting. So I'm sort of doing these out of order if this is the second book, but to be honest, I'm literally taking these books out at random from the package. And we have an analysis of the era stories, and there's also essentially, if you're going back to the source material, you've got to look at the stories themselves and ask yourselves how they apply to my game. How can they influence how I play and what I play, and what I run for my players. If you're the GM. So it's quite text heavy, I have to say, in comparison to the previous books I've looked at. So yeah, I mean, look at that again. Generally, the previous books have been fairly open in their content, but these are perhaps the most compact and detailed of the books in the series that I've seen. But obviously, because there's so much more information to impart to the referee. So, Peoples of the Era. No. Sorry. And then we have Details of the Akar. Basically presents various accolades and talents in 2 categories, and then basically talents for Okar, the firstborn and white Martian characters. Yep. Okay. So what's next? Let's have a look. So we've got firstborn talents like perfect health or fear of the firstborn or ruthless efficiency. Accolades, which people essentially, accolades are titles that NPCs and player characters can achieve through play, like chosen leader, crew and allies, disfavored, so on. Flaws might be born raider or cold-blooded, and so on. It does the same for white Martians, telepathic force, or layers of deception, and basically presenting them. And then we've got the other talents for the various other races of Mars. Okay. And then we've got champions of the era. Nice piece of art back there. Best bit of action. Presumably John Carter himself defending against an attack by various creatures. So these NPCs, essentially these are new narrator characters, and you've got stats on one page there for the character, and then a full description on the other. So they're given plenty of space, and then basically the lesser characters get shorter entries. So you've got three NPC descriptions there. So just see what else we've got in here. I mean, there is a lot in here. Updates to existing characters. So to both, for example, DJ Thoris, John Carter himself. Because essentially they play a role in this period as well. And I like the change in colour there. That's sort of like makes it stand out. Before we go into what looks actually on technology. And you're dealing with the underwater, because obviously the previous periods they had oceans on Mars, so undersea creatures, submarines, and the like. Even really great things like grappling hook gun, radio communication, and so on. Mysterious places, always useful. There are interesting places to explore on Mars. And I think I'm okay. So secrets upon secrets again. Lots of things to dig into and explore in the setting. Let's see. I still get quite a lot in here to look at. Narrate, and then we go on to narrating the era, common themes and tone. Religion in Barsoom, the princesses in another castle. Essentially, so essentially, princess in the castle is looking, saying, don't overuse secret doors and hidden escapes to rob your players of their victories too often. They should be able to achieve concrete progress at least every few game sessions. The villain gets away, or the princess you've been trying to rescue is kidnapped and stolen out of a secret door, that sort of thing. And then we've got basically a discussion of adventures in the Prince of Helium era, with like a campaign structure given there for the narrator to develop herself and bring to the table. So we've got an episodic campaign, and we've got basically adventure seeds, an episodic campaign layout, and then we've got the adventure seeds. So lots of those, plenty for the narrator to bring, and then supporting characters section at the back. So So yeah, I mean, creating supporting characters. So you've got basic template, and takes you through the process. Essentially, it's equivalent of creating a player character, but I mean, obviously, just make it easy for the narrator to create characters and bring them into play. So you've actually got, and you've also got a supporting character generator as well. It's a nice addition, nice tool there for the narrator to use. And just basically rolls a few d20, and yeah, there you go. Then we've got sample characters. So quite a lot of them. Yeah, quite a few in here. Several pages of them before we get into troop play. Now, the interesting stuff I looked at last time for it basically introduced skirmishes and wargame rules for playing on Mars, expanding the type of play. Troop play enables you to players to have multiple characters. So, and then we can also have. Let's have a look. Dynastic play, so you can play down through the ages, a bit like Pendragon, for example. And then duels on Mars, a whole section on duels. It's an important section, basically, matters of honour and judgment and so on, customs and history. It goes into some detail there. So choice of weapons. Atypical duels, constants of the two duels, there's two participants, and duels are dangerous, and declaring a duel. So advice and staging, and discussing the nature of duels, and obviously how to bring them to your table and how to win them. Dueling monster class characters, dueling talents as well. And it's basically doing that. It doesn't have to be sort of like the standard sort of like, you know, back to back, 10 paces forward, turn and shoot. You know, you can fight in the arena, that sort of thing. And then we have section on dueling talents, because some players really like playing duelists and really being good with their weapons, and it's all a matter of art. And there's also styles in here, so you can do, you know, and build those. So boxing, brawling, fencing, bassoon, kenjutsu, kickboxing, and so on. Suggesting techniques that you can add to your play, and this is the sort of thing that essentially, you know, would be interesting for certain play characters. And then we've got the narrator secrets of Helium there, and then a really nice map of the city, nicely done, full colour, and that actually makes use of the portrait format than the landscape format, which is a little bit odd, I would suggest, for the book, but there you go. And we've got more maps, Secrets of Zodanga as well, again another map, again nicely detailed, and which the narrator can bring to the game. And then and even narrator secrets of the palace, and this is a really, actually this is my favourite bit of mapping in there, because it's basically you've got combined map and kind of illustration of the palace as well. That's really nicely done. So that is the Prince of Helium era sourcebook for and campaign book for Edgar Rice Burroughs' John Carter of Mars, role-playing game from Modiphius Entertainment. I look forward to digging into that. I will will review these in due course. I've reviewed the core book, but I've not had the supplements now to really look at. Anyway, thank you once again for watching another unboxing of the Nook. If you've enjoyed this, please do click the like button down below. And if you've got any comments or feedback, I appreciate you posting those. And lastly, if you want to be alerted to yet more unboxings, where you will see me with a box and a book or game, which I will unbox and chat about to the best extent of my knowledge for 10 minutes or so, all of course accompanied by a cat who's not ours, he's gone, and a nice hot cup of tea. Please do hit that subscribe button. Once again, thanks for watching, and I'll be back again soon with another unboxing of the Nook. Bye for now.